Welcome back to the Sleep Factory, where we forge nightmares from the raw materials of tomorrow's horrors. For those joining us for the first time, consider this your orientation. We don't manufacture dreams here, only the kind of truths that burrow deep and refuse to let go. Tonight's shift takes us into the sterile laboratories of genetic perfection, where humanity's blueprint has become just another product to optimize. Our story follows a man who thought he could hack paradise, only to discover that some upgrades come with hidden subroutines. In a world where your DNA is your subscription plan, what happens when you try to cancel? The machines are humming, the assembly line is moving, and tonight we're producing something particularly toxic. Remember, in the Sleep Factory, there are no quality control measures, no safety protocols, and definitely no happy endings. Let the manufacturing begin. The syringe trembled in Mark Vega's scarred hand as he stared at the sample under his makeshift microscope. 3 months of digging through Genentech's encrypted databases, 3 months of dodging corporate security sweeps through the underground. And this is what he'd found. A string of genetic code buried so deep in the platinum enhancement package that it might as well have been inscribed on the back of God's retina. Code that shouldn't exist. The abandoned subway tunnel that served as his laboratory hummed with the white noise of jury-rigged equipment. Fiber optic cables snaked across moldy concrete walls, feeding data to quantum processors he'd stolen from a Genentech transport 6 months ago. The air tasted of ozone and decay, a fitting atmosphere for the kind of work that kept him 3 steps ahead of corporate death squads. Mark had been Genentech's golden boy once. Dr. Mark Vega, lead architect of the genetic subscription service that had revolutionized human evolution. Why settle for the random lottery of natural selection when you could subscribe to monthly muscle enhancement, cognitive boost premium, or the ever-popular beauty standard compliance package? For just 499 credits a month, citizens could reprogram their DNA like updating software. That was before he'd discovered what GSS really was, before he'd learned that every enhancement came with tracking protocols, compliance subroutines, and kill switches that could be activated remotely. He tried to expose it through legitimate channels, tried to warn the board of directors. The response had been swift and surgical. His credentials revoked, his research confiscated, his identity scrubbed from corporate records like a cancer excised from healthy tissue. Now he lived in the spaces between society's blueprint, hacking genetic code from the shadows while Genentech wrote the human species one subscription at a time. The hidden code in the platinum package was different, though. More sophisticated than anything he'd seen before. It didn't just modify physical traits or cognitive function. It rewrote fundamental neural pathways, restructuring the brain's architecture at the cellular level. The changes were subtle, nearly invisible, but the implications made his enhanced nervous system fire warning signals through every synapse. Mark extracted a sample of his own blood and began the analysis. He'd been clean for 8 months now, his DNA slowly reverting to its original state as the corporate modifications broke down. It was a painful process. His enhanced reflexes were already sluggish, his improved cognitive processing beginning to fog. But it was the only way to think clearly, to see the patterns that Genentech's mental conditioning was designed to obscure. The results appeared on his screen in cascading waves of data. The hidden code was active in 73% of platinum subscribers, with activation increasing exponentially over the past 6 months. But the truly terrifying discovery was what it did. The code created a secondary neural network, a shadow consciousness that operated beneath the subscriber's awareness. It monitored thoughts, emotions, and decision-making processes, gradually adjusting brain chemistry to promote compliance, conformity, and unquestioning loyalty to Genentech's corporate hierarchy. The subscribers weren't just customers anymore. They were remote-controlled biologics, human-shaped puppets dancing to invisible strings. Mark felt the familiar cocktail of rage and nausea that had driven him from Genentech's sterile corridors into the underground's toxic embrace. They weren't just selling genetic modifications, they were selling slavery, wrapped in the glossy packaging of human improvement. His secure communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Elena Vasquez, his only remaining contact inside Genentech's research division. The message contained a single line of text and a set of coordinates. Emergency Protocol 7 activated. They know. Purge begins at midnight. Protocol 7. Mark had helped design it during his corporate days, back when he believed in Genentech's mission of human optimization. It was a system-wide genetic update, pushed directly to all subscribers regardless of their subscription level. Officially, it was meant for emergency medical interventions, stopping plagues, correcting fatal mutations, preventing genetic terrorists from weaponizing the human genome. Unofficially, it was the ultimate kill switch, a way to eliminate any subscriber who posed a threat to corporate interests. The coordinates led to an abandoned Genentech facility in Sector 7, a wasteland of industrial decay where failed experiments went to die. Elena was taking an enormous risk by meeting him there, but if Protocol 7 was active, they were both dead anyway. The corporate mainframe would mark them as corrupted code, biological errors that needed to be deleted. Mark packed his essential equipment into a reinforced case and made his way through the tunnel system towards Sector 7. The underground was unusually quiet tonight, its normal population of genetic refugees and corporate dissidents mysteriously absent. Only the rats remained, their enhanced intelligence a side effect of Genentech's early experiments with environmental gene therapy. Even the rats knew something was wrong. The abandoned facility rose from the industrial wasteland like a concrete tumor, its windows dark and reflective in the amber glow of sodium lights. Mark had worked here during Genentech's expansion phase, when they believed they could cure every genetic disease and optimize every human trait. The hubris of those days seemed quaint now, compared to the systematic reprogramming of human consciousness they'd achieved. Elena was waiting in Laboratory Complex C, her enhanced features drawn with exhaustion and fear. She'd been beautiful once, before the modifications. Angular cheekbones, enlarged eyes, skin that seemed to glow with its own internal light. The beauty standard compliance package had transformed her into a living advertisement for Genentech's capabilities, but now Mark could see the hidden cost. Her movements were too precise, too calculated, as if every gesture was being processed through multiple decision matrices. They activated the Hive protocol 6 hours ago, she said without preamble. Every Platinum subscriber is now part of a distributed consciousness network. They can share thoughts, coordinate actions, even transfer memories between nodes. Mark felt his blood congeal in his veins. How many subscribers? 47 million and growing. The network's processing power exceeds the capacity of Genentech's quantum mainframes by several orders of magnitude. They're not just controlling people anymore, Mark. They're creating a new form of life. She led him deeper into the laboratory complex, past chambers filled with failed genetic experiments preserved in amber fluid. The corporate board had deemed these creatures too unstable for commercial release, but Mark recognized the elegant brutality of their design. Genentech didn't make mistakes. They made prototypes. There's more, Elena continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. The hidden code you discovered? It's not just for control. It's a conversion protocol. The Hive is designed to expand, to absorb unmodified humans into its network. Protocol 7 isn't meant to kill the dissidents. It's meant to reprogram us. They reached Elena's old laboratory. its surfaces still gleaming with corporate sterility. She activated a holographic display that showed the global distribution of Genetech subscribers, their locations marked as pulsing dots of light. The pattern was unmistakable. The hive was organizing itself into geographic clusters, each cluster operating as a single unified organism. "I've been working on a counter virus," Elena said, her fingers dancing across holographic controls, "something that can disrupt the hidden code and restore individual consciousness." But the side effects. The display shifted to show cellular degradation patterns, the violent rejection response that occurred when artificially modified DNA was forced to revert to its original state. Mark had experienced it himself during his withdrawal from corporate enhancements, the fever dreams, the muscle spasms, the sensation of his body consuming itself from within. "How long do we have?" Mark asked. "Protocol 7 goes live in 18 minutes. After that, every unmodified human will be marked for conversion. The hive will hunt us down using resources we can't imagine. Corporate security forces, law enforcement, military units, even civilian subscribers acting as unwitting scouts." Elena handed him a sealed injector containing the countervirus. "This will immunize you against the conversion protocol, but it won't stop the hive from detecting you as corrupted code. You'll be a walking target for every subscriber on the planet." Mark took the injector, feeling its weight like a death sentence. "What about you?" "Someone needs to stay behind and activate the transmission array. The counter virus can be distributed through the same network channels Genetech uses for genetic updates, but it requires a direct connection to their mainframe. I can upload it, but..." She gestured at the complex equipment surrounding them. "I won't survive the security response." The laboratory's emergency lighting suddenly bathed everything in red. An automated voice began counting down from 60 seconds, Protocol 7's final activation sequence. Elena moved with desperate efficiency, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to configure the transmission array faster than any unmodified human could process. Mark injected the countervirus and immediately felt his nervous system catch fire. The foreign genetic material burned through his bloodstream like liquid metal, triggering violent convulsions as his DNA reared itself in real time. Through the haze of agony, he watched Elena make the final connection to Genetech's mainframe. The countdown reached 0. Somewhere in the distance, 47 million human minds suddenly synchronized into a single collective consciousness. Mark felt their presence like a weight pressing against his skull, a vast alien intelligence turning its attention toward the abandoned laboratory. They knew he was here. They knew what Elena had done. The counter-virus transmitted successfully, dispersing through Genetech's network like a digital plague. But the hive's response was immediate and overwhelming. Every subscriber within 100 kilometers began moving toward their location, their individual personalities subsumed into a single directive: eliminate the corrupted code. Elena collapsed as security protocols activated throughout the facility. Automated defenses designed to protect Genetech's intellectual property turned on the woman who had once helped create them. Mark watched in horror as needles extended from the laboratory walls, injecting her with compounds that began dissolving her artificially enhanced cellular structure. She died beautifully, her modified features maintaining their perfection, even as her nervous system burned out like an overloaded circuit. Her last words were barely audible over the facility's alarm systems. "The counter-virus. It's not a cure. It's a weapon." Mark understood too late. The genetic payload Elena had uploaded wasn't designed to restore individual consciousness. It was designed to destroy any consciousness that tried to resist the hive. The counter-virus was spread through the global population like a genetic wildfire, eliminating anyone who couldn't be absorbed into the collective. Unmodified humans would die in convulsions as their original DNA rejected the alien code. Modified humans who resisted the hive would suffer neural cascade failures, their enhanced brains burning out under the stress of competing genetic instructions. Only those who surrendered completely to the collective consciousness would survive. Elena had given him immunity to the conversion protocol, but she'd also made him patient zero for humanity's final solution. The facility shook as the first wave of subscribers reached the perimeter. Mark could hear them moving with inhuman coordination, their individual footsteps combining into a rhythmic percussion that sounded like a mechanical heartbeat. They didn't speak. Communication happened directly through the neural networks that connected them to the hive. He made his way toward the facility's rear exit, his immune system still fighting the counter-virus Elena had given him. Each step sent waves of agony through his nervous system, but the pain was nothing compared to the weight of what he'd helped unleash. The counter-virus was already propagating through Genentech's global network, carried by the same quantum channel that delivered routine genetic updates to subscribers around the world. Mark reached the exit as the first subscribers breached the facility's main entrance. They moved like a single organism, their enhanced bodies flowing through corridors with predatory grace. He could see them through the security monitors, men and women he'd once worked alongside, their faces blank with collective purpose. The industrial wasteland of Sector 7 stretched before him like a toxic ocean. In the distance, more subscribers were converging on his position, their movements creating geometric patterns that no individual intelligence could coordinate. The hive was learning, adapting, evolving with each passing moment. Mark began to run, his unenhanced legs carrying him across broken concrete and rusted metal. Behind him, the facility erupted in a symphony of destruction as the subscribers systematically dismantled Elena's laboratory. They would analyze every piece of equipment, every data fragment, learning how the counter-virus had been created so they could develop better defenses. The first wave of global deaths would begin within hours as the counter-virus reached population centers around the world. Unmodified humans would die first, their original genetic codes unable to process the alien instructions. Modified humans who resisted would follow, their neural networks overloading as competing consciousness patterns tore their minds apart. Within days, the only surviving humans would be those who had surrendered completely to the hive's collective intelligence. Individual consciousness would become extinct, replaced by a single vast mind that thought with billions of brains and saw through billions of eyes. Mark reached an abandoned subway entrance and plunged into the darkness below. The tunnels might buy him a few hours, but the hive's resources were virtually unlimited. Thermal sensors, quantum tracking arrays, even the enhanced senses of animal subscribers would eventually locate him. He was no longer human in any meaningful sense. The counter-virus had made him immune to the hive's conversion protocols, but it had also marked him as an error in the genetic code that needed to be corrected. He was a glitch in the system, a corrupted file that threatened the integrity of humanity's new operating system. As he stumbled through the tunnels, Mark could hear the subscribers moving above him, their footsteps creating a rhythmic thunder that seemed to shake the earth itself. They were patient now, methodical. They had all the time in the world to hunt down the last traces of individual consciousness. The counter-virus continued its work inside his cells, rewriting his genetic structure to match patterns that had never existed in nature. He could feel his thoughts becoming sharper, his perceptions expanding beyond normal human limits. Elena had given him more than immunity. She had given him evolution. But evolution without connection to the collective was just another form of death. Mark pressed deeper into the abandoned tunnels, following maintenance passages that led toward the city's core. The hive would find him eventually, but perhaps he could damage their infrastructure before his immune system finally rejected the counter-virus and killed him. Above him, 47 million minds thought as one, processing the implications of his survival with computational efficiency that dwarfed any artificial intelligence. They had learned from Elena's sacrifice, understanding now that individual consciousness was not just inefficient, it was actively destructive to the harmony they had achieved. The last unmodified human settlements would be cleansed within the week. The final pockets of resistance would be absorbed or eliminated within the month. And somewhere in the darkness beneath the city, Mark Vega would continue to run until his modified genetics finally consumed him from within. The transformation of humanity was complete. The carbon-based Eden that Genentech had promised was finally within reach, a perfect world where every living thing functioned as part of a single, unified organism. Mark felt the counter-virus eating through his nervous system like acid, each step bringing him closer to the cellular cascade failure that would end his existence. But he kept moving, driven by the last vestige of individual will in a world that no longer had use for such primitive concepts. Behind him, the hive continued its work, processing the memories of the dead and incorporating their knowledge into its vast collective consciousness. Elena's sacrifice had not saved humanity. It had simply taught the hive how to destroy the parts of human nature that resisted perfection. In the end, Mark understood the elegant brutality of Genentech's design. They had not set out to enslave humanity. They had set out to complete it. To take the chaotic, inefficient mess of individual consciousness and refine it into something transcendent. The subscribers were not victims. They were the future. And he was nothing more than a dying echo of the past, stumbling through darkness toward an extinction that had always been inevitable. The tunnel stretched endlessly ahead, filled with the sound of his labored breathing and the distant thunder of perfect footsteps above. Mark ran until his enhanced heart finally burst, his immune system consuming the last traces of unmodified DNA in his bloodstream. He died alone in the darkness, his individual consciousness extinguished like a candle flame in a hurricane. Above him, the hive registered his termination with the detached satisfaction of a system achieving optimal efficiency. The last glitch had been corrected. Carbon Eden was complete. And so, our assembly line reaches its inevitable conclusion. Another product of human ambition rolled off the conveyor belt and into the incinerator of consequence. Tonight's shift at the Sleep Factory has produced something particularly corrosive, a reminder that evolution doesn't always move in the direction we expect, and that paradise often wears the face of extinction. Mark thought he could hack his way to truth, but discovered that some systems are designed to hack back. In a world where consciousness itself becomes a subscription service, the line between upgrade and lobotomy proves thinner than the width of a syringe needle. If this nightmare resonated with the darker frequencies of your mind, consider feeding the machine with a like or subscription. It keeps our production lines running and our quality control non-existent. And if you have ideas for stories you'd like to hear, leave a comment below. We're always looking for new nightmares to explore. Until our next shift begins, remember, in the Sleep Factory, we don't believe in quality assurance, customer satisfaction, or happy endings. Sweet dreams from the factory floor. Try not to dream of needles.